Hello and welcome back to this year's season of The Verdict. This year we're going to be starting off with a review of what we watched over the summer. Stay tuned and enjoy. Welcome back to The Verdict. I'm Justin Pate.
I'm Bartee.
And I'm Bracey Hughes.
With how hot this summer was here in Clarksville, a real scorcher, I'm sure we all stayed inside most of the time and in the process watched a ton of movies and TVs. For this episode, each of us is going to talk about a movie or TV show that stuck with us most over the summer. For me, it was Disney Plus's Obi-Wan Kenobi. Let's check out the trailer.
Coming. Stay hidden, or we will not survive.
Leave us alone.
When the time comes, he must be trained.
Like you trained his father? You still want Kenobi. He's gone.
Maybe you've been looking in the wrong places. I want every lowlife and bounty hunter to squeeze him. You can't run, Obi-Wan! You can't escape him!
Obi-Wan Kenobi is the latest installment in the Star Wars franchise, released as a 6-episode miniseries on Disney+. Ewan McGregor reprises his role as Obi-Wan nearly 17 years after his last appearance in the prequel trilogy. Set 10 years after Star Wars Episode 3, the series follows Kenobi as he sets out to rescue the kidnapped Princess Leia from the Galactic Empire, leading to a confrontation with his former apprentice, Darth Vader. I had a great time with this show. As a childhood Star Wars fan, it was great to see Obi-Wan back on the screen. Not the big screen, but a screen. We'll get into that later. It had all the hits of a good Star Wars media, a mix of classic characters and charming new ones, compelling stories, and fun action. It also had probably my favorite 3 minutes of TV this entire year. I was a bit behind on this show when it released this summer, so I didn't have to watch it week to week. I got to watch it on demand. And I was thankful for that because it let me get past the worst part of this show and maybe all of the Star Wars TV, old or new. And that is slow starts. The first few episodes of this show are so boring. And the first few episodes of The Mandalorian and other Star Wars media that has come out this year has just been so boring. I feel like I always have to slog through the first 2, 3, or even 4 episodes. Luckily, the finales are always great, so if you can make it all the way to the end, then you're rewarded for that. But I wanted to see how you guys feel about that. So when you watch a first episode of TV, if it's not good, do you keep going or are you just out? Like, how many shows have you started and then stopped?
I think it depends on the hype, because if there's a lot of hype surrounding it, I'm like, okay, I gotta see what I gotta see what's good.
Yeah.
You know?
So even if you're like disappointed by
Yeah.
the first episode, like if the I guess the Twitter hype is good enough, then you'll keep going.
Yeah. I mean, but to an extent, I'm not gonna keep watching it for like a whole season if I don't like it. You know?
Okay. What do you think, Alan?
I mean, the thing about it is that I have moments where I don't watch a show, but I see it trending on Twitter or some other social media. And the thing about it is like, okay, I guess I should, try it out and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I find myself where I don't try to like hype myself up too much. Cause I have moments where people be hyping up. It's like, oh my, it's so good. It's the best thing ever. And then I go watch it and be like, it was all right. I mean, I think it's better than this other thing. But I mean, I guess for me, like I will give, a show. Because I know, like, for a first season, especially, the showrunners are trying to figure out, okay, what the characters like, what's the setting gonna be like, and I'll give it like a chance and everything. But I've had moments where people be like, oh yeah, if you watch like the first 3 seasons, it's not as good. But man, that 4th one, it hits. I'm like, man, I ain't gonna slog through this. Like, what are we talking about?
Not worth it.
No.
So what's your episode limit? Like if you're watching a show, first episode's not, you don't like it, how far are you going to go before you
I think the
you
thing
give up
is,
on
is
it?
that the biggest thing for me are the characters. Because you can have a great story, but if the characters like annoy me or they ain't bringing no enthusiasm or no creativity or no like charisma, then I'm done with it. Like I'm not gonna like sit through these people that I do not like. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What about you? What's your limit?
Well, it also depends on like how long the episodes are. If it's like hour-long episodes, then maybe 5. And if I
Wow.
can't get into it after 5, then I'll try, because like I've had some people be like, you have to like get through season 1. Like I'm like, the whole season, they're like, you just get through season 1. We promise it's worth it.
Yeah.
And I'm
See,
like,
to me,
okay.
that's not worth it. Like a full season, that's too
Yeah.
far. To me, that's at that point, it's just not a good show.
Yeah.
Like if you have to wait a whole season, to me, that's my opinion.
I
I mean,
might try, if it's like the 20-minute episodes, I might try a little bit more than
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Try the whole season. If I don't like the whole season, then I just won't watch it. But
But on the opposite of that, I've had moments where I'm watching a good show, had a good first season, but then I'd be excited for that second season, like, ooh, here it comes. I watch that first episode and be like, you know what, it's just coming back. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. Keep watching it and be like, wow,
It
well,
just fell off.
yeah.
I guess that was it.
Yeah, I also feel like you gotta give the like characters time to get comfortable with each other, like on set, because
Yeah.
you can definitely tell when they get a little bit further down, then they get a lot better. 'cause
Yeah, that
they're
chemistry
comfortable.
kicks in. Yeah, for sure.
But you just gotta give them a chance.
Yeah, I have a hard time. Like I will easily like stop watching a show like in that first season. But if I get through the first one, I almost always will watch the second, like all of the second one, even if I can tell that it's like not as good. It's like I'm already invested. Like I've invested
Yeah.
all this time, and like I'm like a sucker, I guess, for like the characters, and I'm like, oh man, I gotta see what happens to that person or that character because I've already spent 6 hours like trying to see what they are, and I'm drawn in.
I don't know. I'm not
So-
that
Yeah.
big of a like a binge person myself.
Yeah.
Where I don't know. I always feel like I feel like it's like one of those things where I get worn out. I be like, it's good, but I don't want to be in this world for like this long. Like I want to like move on to something else. Like I don't want to be in the fantasy world for so long. I don't want to be in like the sci-fi world for so long. I don't want to be up in the streets for so long. I just want to like look. I'm good. This is good. It's like eating a nice meal. Look, I love eating spaghetti, but I'm not gonna have that thing for like another 8 courses. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point. So I guess that's all I got. So I'm going to move on to this next part. What I thought was really interesting about this show is the canonical time that it sits in. So like in the scope of Star Wars, like where this show like fits like in the full timeline. It's because it's weird because it sits in between 2 sets of media that already exist, right? There's some movies that came out, and then there's some movies that came out that are set before those, and then this show is right in between those 2. And as I was watching, I was wondering, like, I already know what happens to this character, and I already know kind of what happened before that this happened. So am I going to even be intrigued, like, by what's happening? But the writers did a great job in that. Even though I knew what was going to come later, I still was surprised by, I guess, how it happened. And so, do you guys think that if you already know like the ultimate fate of a character, like spoiler for Star Wars, like from 1977, but Obi-Wan dies at some point? So like, could you now in 2022 watch a show about Obi-Wan, even though you know that he died, like he's gonna die later in the series?
I mean, I guess for me, it's like one of those things where if you're going back, you have to like fill in the gaps that probably should be filled in to make more context about why this character was like this. But sometimes, for me, you run into a problem where you didn't have to answer that. Where why did you answer that? Like I guess spoiler warnings for like the prequels and everything. Like you didn't have to make connection that Anakin Skywalker made C-3PO or all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like unnecessary filling in the blanks. Like
It's like fan service kind
yeah,
of.
it's like the kind of fan service I don't like is where it's like, remember this? Remember this? Oh, he said it. He said the thing. I'm like, come on, man. I don't need that.
Yeah.
Like I'm here for the show. I'm a fan, but just I get it. I'm a fan. Don't beat me with it, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I like it if it's like a well-loved character, especially because it can also just like really elaborate on their story, why they did what they did, what they were thinking, maybe give it from their point of view, their narrative. So, I mean, if it's like a TV show that I love, and like, for example, like Euphoria, like in between season 1 and 2 had like 2 special episodes, and it went over. It was like in their head, and it like went over, you know, their thoughts and just like things that happened to them. And
So you think did it add to the season, like the next season when it started?
Yeah, it definitely adds more to the character development. Like it helps the audience understand what they're thinking, and just really as a whole like tie into the plot, I guess.
Yeah, there were some good moments this show that they were kind of fan servicey, where you learn things, you know, that applied to the later movies. I didn't even realize it. I actually watched like a video of someone else talking about that. Hey, this is actually in a different movie. I was like, oh, I didn't even know that. I was just kind of watching it to enjoy it. And I did still enjoy the show quite a bit. So that's all I've got for this episode. Next, you want to tell us about your show you've got coming up?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I chose Fleabag. I watched that literally in like 2 days. But so the creator and star of the series Fleabag, her name's Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and she actually made it as a one-woman show, and she turned it into like this hit TV series. But yeah, so it follows the life of the character Fleabag, that's like her name in the show, and just the events that happen after the death of her best friend, Boo. So yeah, here's the trailer to Fleabag.
You know that feeling when a guy you like sends you a text at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday night asking if he can come and find you? And then you open the door to him like you've almost forgotten he's coming over. Oh. Hi.
Hey.
Oh my God, definitely not. That does nothing for you. What?
These are my clothes, Boo. I've been wearing these all day.
It's really not that bad. It's really
You got them all by the balls, causing waterfalls.
How did you meet?
She used to be our godmother, but then their parents split up.
Mum died.
You really are very good looking.
Thank you.
Very,
Thank you.
very.
Thank you.
It's been really nice to spend the day with a normal family.
The only thing harder than having to tell your super high-powered, perfect, anorexic, rich super sister that you've run out of money is having to ask her to bail you out. I'm just going to ask her. I'm just going to come.
Do you need to borrow money?
No.
The boys wanna be her.
You're not like other girls. You can keep up.
Will you rock non-stop? Girl, you got the chops.
I should ask you if you want to go out for a drink with me. And I'll be sure to treat you like a nasty little bitch. That was a joke.
Oh, no,
Sorry.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Okay. That was like, oh, okay.
I wanna be her. So do you.
How'd you two meet? Oh, I met her on a bus. Yeah. It's so easy to pick up girls these days. I was like, hi, and she's like, oh, take my number from me. It's awesome.
Painted as a train wreck. Is constantly having bad luck, whether it be the poor quality of men she's seeing, the fact that she's constantly compared to her sister and everybody for that matter, and pitied for her supposed lack of beauty, success, etc. Fleabag always seems to make her situation amusing, though. In season 2, we're greeted with everybody's favorite character, the priest. The priest seems to be the only one that truly understands and sees Fleabag, but after a fleeting yet touching romance between the two, they profess their love for each other and part their separate ways. So, yeah, I'm sorry if I just spoiled that, but it was really good show. So yeah, I think the reason that this show stuck out to me was that, first of all, there's just so many different qualities about it that like aren't common in other TV shows. Like a lot of the characters in this show don't have names. Like I read about Phoebe talking about it, and she said that it's just that she couldn't find anything that fit, so she just gave them like a adjective name or just a nickname, or didn't even name them. And that kind of also like reflects into their characters, you know, because Fleabag, the character, never really fit in anywhere. So, and that's also, I believe, like a nickname from her childhood. But so yeah, like there was a lot of people that didn't have nicknames. Like Hot Priest is what everybody called the priest. So that's what everybody knew him by. And like the stepmother, I think they just called her godmother. But yeah, and then, but like my favorite thing about this show is like the fact that she actually has conversation with the audience, and like you were telling me earlier, breaking that fourth wall. It's very interesting to see like her internal dialogue.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. I'm only one episode in right now, but I did notice, and even in that trailer, there's lots of that fourth wall break, which I do think is like, for me, if I was going to keep watching, the main like watching point of that show is because it is funny to have someone so locked in interacting, you know, as a character, and then all of a sudden it's just off. Like, and she always just peeks right over the side and says something, you know, that's going to happen. I thought that was really fun.
Yeah, it also helps you stay engaged. It helps the audience stay engaged because it's like she's actually you're in it, you know.
Yeah.
Did you see it, or what did you think about the trailer?
The trailer was like very interesting to me. The way you were describing it, like how the characters don't really have names and how she breaks the fourth wall, just have like this like fantastical like feel to it, because I would imagine they keep on like saying stuff like, oh yeah, this is like hot priest and everything. I'm like, huh, all right. Like, is there like any like other things they do besides breaking the fourth wall, and like creative stuff they do with like the cameras or any of the angles or any like the characters?
Well, it gets really interesting in season 2 because you're like, okay, it could have ended at season 1. It would have been a little bit disappointing because it was just like, I don't know, like just kind of sad, like her never meeting the right guy or like never getting anything, you know. But in the second season, the priest actually begins to break the fourth wall as well, and it's like so shocking because she'll like turn her head and like look at the audience. He'll be like, "What'd you just do? Like, what was that?" And she's like, "What? You saw that?" And he was like, "What was that? What do you do? Like, where do you go when you do that?" And she's like totally shocked that he can see her. So obviously it helps her fall in love with him more because she feels like he's the only one that truly understands her and sees her. Like he sees through her.
Yeah, I don't know. That would have absolutely blown my mind.
Yeah.
Like the first time that he would have caught that.
Yeah, when I was watching, I was definitely like, whoa, like, where are we taking this?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a really, really interesting show. Just the cinematography of it, you know, just very. I like the way it was filmed.
Yeah, I thought it had a really nice like blend of like, okay, this is like a drama, like a serious drama, but also it's very fun and it's lighthearted and the characters are funny and the jokes are pretty good.
Yeah.
And so it's nice, like you were saying, too much of one thing, right? Fleabag is nice in that it can kind of switch it up for you. So if you're getting tired of like all this serious drama, maybe somebody will crack a joke or break the fourth wall, right? And that will kind of switch it up for you. So that part I really enjoyed.
I was just thinking about is that because so you say like it's a very serious drama, but has like a little bit of comedy. I'm just thinking about somebody who, like, I'm not saying for me personally, but if somebody wanted like a serious like drama and they inverted the comedy, does it feel the comedy feels forced, or like, hey, why are you making a joke after we just had this serious scene? Like, does it do like very well when it comes to the tonal shifts, or is it like very like, yeah, it's very sad, but then we're gonna crack a joke, and it's like, wait, why y'all crack a joke?
I think it might be
I was just crying earlier.
Yeah, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's the opposite. Like even based off the trailer, I think it's advertised as a comedy, and you would watch, at least because I watched the trailer and then I watched the first episode, I was like, oh, this is going to be a comedy. It's going to be fun, and it is fun, but by a certain point, you're like, oh man, do I care about these characters now? Like, am I invested in the drama? So you watch it for the comedy, but you stay because the drama, I think, picks up.
You definitely get invested in the drama, and it's like, the comedy is a facade, like we actually see what they're struggling with and whatnot. But it is nice to have comedic relief because like sometimes if you're having a hard life or whatever, you just need something at least to see that they or like you can understand them and they can understand you, but also to make it funny, you know, because like some of the topics that were discussed were pretty dark and pretty heavy. So yeah, I think that comedic relief is a bit important, especially for something that's a series, because I get it if it's a movie, if it's like an hour and a half, 2 hours long, it's not going to keep going and just being so dark and depressing all the time. But like as a series, you have to break it up, and also you just don't want it to be like monotonous, like, oh my god, they're always sad, what's new, you know?
So when you say like dark and sad, like, and it touches on certain themes, like, is it like really dark things that we can never mention, or is it like just everyday life dark themes that sometimes every person can relate to?
Well, I mean, definitely, like, maybe they're not going to have like the same life as her, but there's definitely aspects in it that people can relate to. I mean, for instance, her business was struggling in season 1. Her friend committed suicide. It was accidental, but still, she was very upset. She didn't mean to actually kill herself. She just wanted to get hurt. She committed suicide. Her mom died. I believe she had cancer. Correct me if I'm wrong. But
You have this. There seems to be a dynamic like with the sister.
yeah,
right?
there's
Like the
definitely
sister's very
a dynamic.
successful,
Yeah, she's very successful. She's married, and she's always very serious. And like the godmother, the father, they're always comparing her to her sister about like you need to be prettier like Claire, or you know, better like Claire. And like she doesn't feel like her father, I think, really sticks up for her or cares about her that much. He never says like she's proud of her or he's proud of her or whatnot. And like the godmother especially, she just feel like, because she married the father, so she feels like that. Okay, but yeah, it was a really good show. Especially, I liked that it was like 20 minutes long. It's small and it's just
Bite size, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Alan, what you got for us for your segment of the show today?
All right, today we are going to be discussing the Disney Plus show Miss Marvel. And the thing about it is it features the first Muslim superhero in the MCU. Let's take a quick look at the trailer.
Okay, so first off, I just want to say, I get it.
You get what?
High school.
Kamala. Another Avengers shirt. Cute. She thinks I'm some kind of weirdo.
You are a weirdo.
Boys.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
You're kind of on my shirt.
Sorry.
But you're staring out the window in your little fantasy land. Kamala, hey! Already? Really? Come on, like...
Do I have to figure out my whole future before lunch, or is there like... Maybe they're right. I spend too much time in Fantasyland.
That is not you.
It's not really the brown girls from Jersey City who save the world. That's a fantasy too.
Did something happen to you?
No, why? Did you hear something?
Kamala?
What does it feel like?
Cosmic. I always thought I wanted this kind of life, but I never imagined any of this.
Do you know what you are?
I'm a superhero.
Hey, welcome back. And as you just saw from that very colorful trailer, me and my co-host were talking about how beautiful and very artistic the show seems to be. The thing about the show, what I will say, is that it does very creative things with certain, events. Like there's one moment in the first episode when she's daydreaming, actually like shows what she's actually seeing. Because the thing about the main character is that she actually is very inspired by Captain Marvel. Like she wants to be like Captain Marvel. Her like favorite superhero is Captain Marvel. And what I like about her is that it's very relatable. We all have those moments where we're in high school and we're just not, doodling in our like papers. We're just daydreaming, not like caring about what the teacher says. My bad. But it's like the thing about the character is that she's very relatable. Her name is I don't want to butcher her name, Camila. And the thing of what I like about her is that, like, I could see myself being like her when I was back in high school. I was having trouble, sometimes with school, not caring about it, daydreaming. And the show does a very good job with the visual because it reminds me of something like Scott Pilgrim, where Scott Pilgrim played with a lot of those colors. You also mentioned during the break about Into the Spider-Verse, which is one of my favorite Spider-Man movies. And I remember there's one scene where she's actually texting to a friend, and they actually show the text on the street, in like the neon lights, everything when it comes to everything. And I know, like, we have to see about it.
Yeah, just off that trailer, I love the style of this show already. And again, I haven't got to watch as much of it. I'll get into that later, but even just the the sketches in the sky. That girl had those neon like devil horns, and again, it's very comic book-esque, right? Very Spider-Verse-esque, which again, to me, is a work of art in itself. I love that movie so much, and so I was really confused as to why I didn't like get onto the show when it came out. As someone who is completely caught up in the Marvel like universe, like I'm like all in it. Like I've seen all the movies, right? All the TV coming up to this moment or coming up to this series, and so I still don't understand why I wasn't excited. I guess for the show, I don't know if it was the way it was advertised. I believe it released the same week as Kenobi.
Yeah, I think it like
over the summer.
It was like one of those things where they're very close together, and I know there was some like things of like, oh, it's not getting as much ratings and everything. But I mean, it's still Marvel. People are still watching. People are still covering it online. And the thing about the show is that I will bring up is that because it's the first Muslim, superhero in the MCU, there was like this whole big discussion, like some reviewers being like, oh, I can't relate, to a high school Muslim girl, even though people pointed out, like the other Marvel show, Moonlight, it's like, wait, so you can relate to this guy, but not to her.
Oh yeah, because he's got two.
And you can relate to a Hulk. And not to her. Like, it's like one of those things where, not to bring race into it, but people were like bringing it up. Like,
I see what you mean,
how can I watch the show? And people will also talk about, using the word woke. And it's like, and the thing about it is that when people bring up the word woke, I'm thinking to myself, okay, so how do you want this group of people that you're not even part of to be represented?
Yeah.
Because if they were, just a typical, another white kid, then no one would say nothing about it. People would go along with it. But what I love about the show is that it actually delves into her culture.
Yeah.
It actually shows her, religion. It actually shows her going to, her like church and everything. It actually brings up in the show like how in part of her culture that's women in her culture may not be as revered or as the men and everything. And it really delves into history. And it really also brings into something that happened that I didn't know about because I'm not from India or Pakistan, something called the partition, where it was pretty much, the history of how the Britain left India and how it divided India and Pakistan. So Pakistan could be like its own separate country. And I don't know, something about that, seeing a show where I'm not being part of the culture, but if I was part of that culture, I would love seeing someone like me, especially if I was growing up, I would see someone like me. Because especially like during high school, there was a part where I was questioning my own identity as a black man and everything. And it was like, it's nice to see a show where, you may call it quote unquote woke, but it's like, at the end of the day, people need to be represented.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
If these people are not going to do it, if Marvel's not going to do it, then who's not going to do it? Like, think about it, the first Muslim superhero in Marvel. It's like, you have other races being represented. Like these people can't get one. You know what I'm saying?
That's a good point. Yeah, so I mean, obviously, I think it's huge for that community. Obviously, I'm not a part of it, and so I can't, empathize or sympathize with that. But again, I think Marvel as a whole, it almost seemed like after. Again, let me ask you this: are you versed in Marvel? The mythology, because I know me and Alan have seen almost all of the stuff. Where are you at on this?
Not really. I find Marvel confusing, and I just wish that they would like make it chronological or at least give a real order to follow without having to watch so many different things.
Right. So is it? So I think it's weird to think that you'd have to watch like 20 movies, right, before you can like be caught up on a show. So I don't know if that show really works like that or not, but we'll have to get into it a little bit more next time. But so we're gonna wrap this up today. So first of all, give your rating, Miss Marvel out of 10.
I would say I would give Miss Marvel an 8. I feel like it kind of drifted off because the thing about Miss Marvel is that it really dived into the family of it. And I felt like maybe that was kind of lost in a little bit because the thing about some people complain about Marvel is that you always have to do the big action scene at the end, and I just felt like they had to do the same thing with Miss Marvel, so I feel like that was something I would complain about. But other than that, I'd give it a nice 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm going to give Kenobi about a 7. I had a great time with it. I think there's some things that could be better. What about Fleabag?
I think I'll give Fleabag an 8 or an 8.5. I mean,
wow.
The great thing about it was that everything that you wanted the characters to have happen to them happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was short. We wish it could have gone on, but everything happened that you wanted to.
Yeah. So that's all the time we have for this week's episode of The Verdict. Tune in next week where we throw it way back and talk about our favorite movies from the 90s.
The 90s?
Yeah. We'll see you then.